You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
G'day, I'm Peter George, former professional cricketer and now umpire, and you are listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Joining me on today's cricket discussion is a former Australian Test cricketer. He played only one Test match for Australia in 2010 against India, where he took the wicket of Sachin Tendulkar. Despite a short Test career, he played 64 first-class matches and took over 207 wickets between 2008 to 2018. In a List A career that spanned from 2009 to 2016, he played 22 matches and took 25 wickets. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Peter George. Peter, welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you here, Peter. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with me today. You are the third Australian Test cricketer that we've interviewed on the podcast, behind, obviously, two former teammates. Obviously, one of them you played for Australia, which was Nathan Horrocks, which turned out to be his final Test match, which was your one and only Test, the irony in that. And then obviously your former South Australian teammate and Jason Dizzy Gillespie. So No one can take that away from you, Peter, that you're the third ever Australian Test cricketer we've had on the Dibbly Dobbly podcast.
So there you go. That's an
honour that you
hopefully
have.
Many. It is an honour.
Yes, hopefully many more to come in the near future. But it's great to have you on here and obviously talk about your career in cricket, obviously playing for Australia, of course, be it only one Test, umpiring, because you're an umpire now, and many other things within the game of cricket as well. And probably people listening and watching to this episode probably would have heard of your name at the time when you played, but obviously it's the case whenever people play only one Test for their country and in cricket, you tend to be forgotten. So hopefully we can get people to remember who you were.
That guy, oh yeah, I remember him. Not really.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Didn't he play in India and got Sachin Tendulkar out? We'll talk about that a bit later on when we talk about your career, Peter. But that's the whole idea about interviewing people, and that's why I enjoy interviewing people, to understand the person and their story, and for them to share their story. And no doubt you'll do that today, sharing your journey in cricket and your story, and hopefully people can join the dots and say, oh yeah, now I remember who he was. So that's the whole thing, really. So we're going to have a great chat today, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening will as well. Peter, as I do with all my guests that I've interviewed on the podcast, I like to take them back to when they first got into cricket, and it's been very fascinating listening to people's memories on how they started to get into cricket. Peter, let's go back to the very beginning growing up. I know that's a long time ago. Time flies. What were your earliest memories of watching, playing, and even going to the cricket? And who were some of your cricketing idols growing up?
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, it was very much a family affair. I'm the youngest of four boys, so three older brothers, all very much into their sport. Actually, both of my parents were PE teachers early in their careers. So, yeah, very kind of sport-driven family. So summers were all about cricket. Our house, where my parents still live there, actually, in Flinders Park, kind of overlooks the River Torrens. So, yeah, we have some great front yard cricket matches. Particularly with my next closest brother, Ben. We had some very fierce competition, and always playing against an older sibling, I guess, gives you that extra challenge to push yourself and need to perform to, but also probably that ability to bounce back from setbacks, because you're often getting beaten at that age, because for obvious reasons when your brothers are older than you. So maybe that helped me probably get to where I got to.
Yeah, definitely.
And then as far as idols, Glenn McGrath's standout figure to me. I loved watching him bowl. I love the way he go about it. His attitude seemed, he wasn't one of these bowlers that that really got mad and in the face of the batter very often. Probably in my career, I can look back and the one or two times that I might have, gotten a little bit hot under the collar, it was because I wasn't bowling well. And I think from memory, I think that's kind of a similar personality with McGrath. It seemed like when he was getting like that, it wasn't meaning that he was actually bowling better. So, just that cool, calm, collected, just going about your business, just trying to nick batters off.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, people did make comparisons to you and him, if that serves me correctly, because both of you are so tall, and obviously bowlers, obviously. So the comparisons are there with the two. Were you able to meet him? Talk to him in your time?
I did meet Pitch a couple of times. Unfortunately, not in any kind of official like coaching capacity or anything like that. It was kind of in passing more so. But yeah, like he's just I think as a kid you tend to especially if it's a favorite player that you're idolizing, you're watching a lot of them. It's kind of natural that you, I guess, develop the tendencies to kind of copy their action, whether you're consciously trying to do it or not. So I think when I started getting towards the professional level and even into the Australian setup, the media started to make those comparisons, which I felt very humbled by, because it was obviously a very great Test cricketer.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. He was one of the best in the world. Tell us about your playing cricket at club level and all that stuff. Mucking around and playing cricket on a Saturday or Sunday. What were those days like for you, Peter, growing up?
Like I say, playing a lot in the front yard. I played primary school cricket at Flinders Park. But basically, the first opportunity I got, I went and tried out at West Torrens District Cricket Club. I managed to make the squad for their Ray Sutton Shield. It was called back in the day. I'm not sure what it's called now. Might still be the same, actually. I was never really a standout player coming up through the junior ranks or even into seniors. I'm probably one of the few players that's played every single grade at West Torrens or any club for that matter, because generally a lot of players, if they're good enough to get to A grade cricket, they tend to be more of a standout player coming up through juniors. Whereas I had a bit of a different path to that because I was kind of always a bit of a battler. But somehow I just always just dreamed of playing Test cricket and somehow, just despite the kind of evidence that was presented to me, given my current my ability at that point when I was young, I somehow believed that I always kind of could. I didn't necessarily believe that I would. It was just kind of, it's possible, if you know what I mean. So, that kind of kept that drive and hunger to, even if I was getting dropped out of fourth grade at West Torrens to go play a game of local cricket for Fulham, I managed to just keep fighting away, get myself up eventually into the A grade. Actually, on that though, I do have a few unique kind of features about my journey coming into the system, because I'd had a good under-19 tournament, and that's what managed to get my first rookie contract, which was actually turned down by Shannon Hearn, who obviously went on to play a lot of AFL football for Western Eagles, West Coast, I should say. So I had that rookie contract, and that season, pre-season or early, very start of the season, I played a second 11 game, and I still hadn't even made my first grade debut for West Torrens. So I actually played my state second 11 debut before I made an official A grade debut, which is, can't imagine that's happened too often.
No, definitely. Well, they must have seen something in you before your club side did.
Well, to be fair, we had a very strong club, West Torrens, a very strong bowling cartel, especially with Mark Harrity and Trent Kelly were kind of the lead names, and then a couple of other stalwart A-grade fast bowlers had been, playing forever. Pretty hard for a 18, 17-year-old, whatever I was, to break into that A-grade side at the time.
Yes, definitely. So when did the belief started that you could play for South Australia and make a career out of playing cricket. Obviously, you went on to do that, obviously, and then went on to Queensland to end your career. But when did that belief come into your mind that, okay, as you said, I'm not a standout player, but I'm doing just enough. I'm giving it all my efforts, 100%. I'm doing the basics right. So when did that come into your mind that, okay, I should take this serious and see where does it take me?
Well, I guess, I mean, like probably everyone, it started out just as a pipe dream sort of thing, watching cricket over the summers, watching Test cricket, just dreaming about getting a baggy green and being out there on the field playing Boxing Day Test, for example. So I guess it was always a dream, and somehow in my head, like I say, it was like a possibility. But I guess it wasn't until I tried out for the under-19 state squad. This would have been maybe early 2004, I think. When I made that state squad, was kind of the first, oh, wow, I'm actually, getting, up into that representative level now, not just kind of battling away. I was still playing third grade for West Torrens at that point. So, that kind of ignited a bit more of a fire to kind of think, well, maybe this is actually genuinely possible. It kind of went on from there.
Yes, definitely. Tell us about bowling to Justin Langer in the nets, and he was really impressed by the way you were bowling to him. It was during the Adelaide Test, when Australia played in Adelaide that year. What was that like bowling to JL? First of all, he was a well-established player at that time, and you must have took tremendous confidence in him, saying, "You got something about you here."
Yeah, it was definitely. I was very lucky a few times in those early years when I had a rookie contract for one season and then lost that contract. And this was actually during that year that I didn't have a contract with SA, but I was invited to come and bowl, in the nets to the test sides. I was, like I say, I was lucky enough to do it a couple of times. On this particular occasion, it was in the lead up to a test match, bowled to a few of the. I remember bowling to Ricky Ponting and Adam Gilchrist, when I bowled to Justin Langer, I think I managed to get him to nick one. I bowled a couple of bounces and had him kind of jumping out of the way and stuff, and he was like, kind of suitably impressed, throwing the ball back to me, and he's like, "Oh, mate, well bowled. You'd be on a rookie contract or something here with SAA?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Oh, okay, talk to me afterwards." And then, so sure enough to his word, he came and found me afterwards, and he's like, "Yeah, what's your name? Exchange details or whatever." And he's like, "I'll reach out at the end of the season." And I was actually I mentioned Mark Harrity briefly earlier. He was involved as a bowling coach with South Australia at the time, and he was there as during that conversation. He'd always been a bit of a mentor and a coach to me. Actually, owe a lot of my coming up through the ranks to his, I guess, mentorship. So he happened to be there for that conversation and was giving the inside word to the Sackers, saying, if you don't want to lose this kid, you better give him a contract. And sure enough, Sacker offered me a full contract at the end of that season.
Well, there you go. It only takes one specific thing like that to say, "Oh, okay, we don't want WA to pinch him, so we'll sign you."
That's right. I could have been a WA player.
Well, yes. Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Right place, right time, sort of sliding doors moments. So obviously you play for South Australia and you achieve that dream, and then your debut in Shield cricket, you have very fond memories of that. Tell us about when you eventually made your debut for SA, and take us back to that debut, and what were you feeling and the emotions, and just realizing that the dream has been achieved.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. Every step along the way, you kind of think, you think it's possible, but then for it to actually happen, I guess you get that pinch me kind of moment of being a bit surreal, but also, a lot of satisfaction of going, wow, I actually am kind of going up here. So yeah, my state debut in Sheffield Shield was down in Hobart. Mark Harrity actually presented me my state cap. So that was, a really, full circle moment, like I mentioned him already. So that was really nice. I did reasonably well in my debut. I think Tim Payne was my first state wicket. I think he went to leave one that bounced a bit, hit his arm, got caught behind, given out. So thank you. I'll take that as my first Shield wicket. Probably not shouldn't have been out, but it was looking at the scorebook. That was my debut. I ended up with 4 in the first innings and another 2 in the second innings. And then Bellerive Oval. It's Ninja Stadium now, I think it's called, but very much a happy hunting ground for me against the Tasmanians. So the following year, I took 8 in an innings there, which was the record there for a little while. So that was even more fond memories.
Oh yes, definitely, especially when you take 8 wickets in an innings. It's always a highlight. Half the side's already out, so only one bowler's got all the wickets. Who got the other 2?
Yeah, that was an interesting game because I think we'd gotten. I'm starting to get mixed up with games now. You're testing my memory out, but the wicket actually, often when a bowler gets 8 for it's like a green seamer, and then just bowler has a day out and just nicks everybody off, and it kind of happens all really quickly. Whereas my 8 wickets I went for 84 runs off. I can't remember how many overs, but it was a lot of overs. We were out in the field for a day and a half. Ed Cowan scored 200 in that innings. And it just seemed like every time I got the ball, I would take a wicket in a spell, and it just seemed like no one else was able to take a wicket that game, for us. So I just kept chipping away, keep getting more and more wickets, and by the end, it's like I think I'd had 8 out of 9, and then Chris Duval, I reckon, took the last wicket. But that was 8 out of the 10, and then I ended up getting 3 out of the 4 wickets in the second innings to finish the match with 11 before the game ended up kind of fizzling out to a draw anyway, because like I say, the wicket was pretty flat, and I think we went off a bad light and never got back on. Pretty cold down in Hobart as it was.
Yes, it pretty is. It is very cold. It's nothing between Tasmania and the Arctic, I think Antarctica or something like that. So it's pretty cold.
Yeah.
And you say green seamers and all that. Hobart is renowned for producing green tops and all that stuff, and probably one of the most English type pitches in Australia, really. Compare that to the Gabba, where they roll out some green tops there every now and again as well.
Yeah,
but
yes. So
the
beauty of Australian Shield cricket is you tend to have different wickets all around the country. Test different skills everywhere. So I think it probably helped me playing here at Adelaide Oval on a reasonably flat wicket a lot of the time, because I had to get wickets the hard way, bore people out, which suited my style of bowling for the most part. Just kind of relentless, hopefully relentless good areas. I tried as best as I could.
Yes, definitely. So then you're playing for South Australia, and things are progressing nicely and all that stuff. And then eventually you move on to go to Queensland towards the back end of your career to pursue other opportunities, because you were let go by the state. Talk us through that period. Was that probably one of the lowest points of your career, dealing with that and not knowing that I may not play any form of cricket going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a challenging time. My last couple of years with South Australia, I I barely played a game in the Shield team for the last 2 seasons I had here. So it was getting quite frustrating because I felt like you know, hadn't really changed. I didn't feel like I'd all of a sudden lost the skill. But I think, it's kind of funny. Like I often say, everyone has a sob story. Everyone should have played more, should have played higher, should have played longer. And so, anytime I think about, woulda, coulda, shoulda in terms of my cricket career, I have to remind myself how lucky I was to get where I did. How many people would kill for a baggy green, and also 64 first-class matches. I'm definitely grateful for everything that I did achieve. And so, I think I'm reluctant to kind of complain too much about, being on the wrong side of a coach or a selector and not getting in the team, because I was definitely on the right side of the right people enough times in my career to get to where I got. But on I guess the positive side, that move to Queensland, I actually, as much as there was negative kind of in the reason why I moved there, because I lost my contract with South Australia, and but yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the proudest things I did in my career, having lost my contract, having no guarantees of anything in Queensland, just kind of picked up and moved to Brisbane, and managed to just force my way into the team through just taking buckets of wickets. I had an agreement with Stuart Law that I could come and train with the Queensland Bulls side, kind of that pre-season. So that was my one little in that I had, it kind of everything that could go right went right, and found myself upgraded onto a contract and managed to extend out my career by another 5 years, which was and then just the culture, I very much enjoyed the playing culture up in Queensland than I did probably during the time I'd had in SA before that.
Yeah, definitely. And often a change in scenery and environment can also help as well. That's why we see a lot of players move states in Shield cricket in Australia to pursue other opportunities, but also a change of scenery as well.
Yes.
Which can often help.
Brisbane in winter is a very nice place to be. It's just hard to be.
Yes, it is.
Down in the dumps when you're this is beautiful weather, waking up for a running session. I remember smiling to myself at like a 6 a.m. running session where we're about to get absolutely smashed, and I was not a fitness type of a person, so I never enjoyed those. But I remember just smiling to myself one morning when I'm just like, how good is this? How lucky am I to be here about to do this session with Queensland Bulls?
Oh, it's better than going for a run in the morning in Adelaide, I can tell you. Especially during winter, it's horrible. You want to stay in bed. Frost and fog. Well, absolutely. That's why you moved, because of that. Get out of the winters here in South Australia.
Yeah.
And obviously you mentioned Stuart Law as well, as we'll talk about a bit later on, another member of the One Test Club for Australia. So maybe he had a bit of empathy for you, because obviously that was a few years after you played that one test in 2010, which we'll talk about in a special section in this chat. But that leads me on to, playing for South Australia and then getting up to that point of being considered to be a part of Australia's test squads to New Zealand, and then obviously when Australia played Pakistan in those test matches in England in 2010. Did you have a bit of an inkling at that time that you could achieve that dream of playing for Australia? At that time where the selectors were looking for bowlers and backup personnel, which you were a part of. That's why you were in the squads. Did you have a feeling then that, okay, this could be a reality now? I've got to keep knuckling down and keep working hard, but I'm a chance here. Did you feel that you were a serious chance? And did the selectors get in touch with you and say, we're considering probably you in the near future?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely feels like a chance. But that first phone call, when I actually got flown to New Zealand to be back up when Ryan Harris made his Test debut, and so I just kind of got that really short snippet there, a bit of a taste of the setup. But that was, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of as close as you can get without playing. So if you're not going to believe that you can at that point, then you never will. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know particularly that I was definitely going to play. But yeah, definitely it was all feeling like another step in that direction. So to that point, I'd only played, I think that was the end of my second Shield season. So, to that point, I'd just kind of been on this real sharp trajectory up kind of ever since that Justin Langer moment, really, going back onto contract and, because I've obviously been dropped off a rookie contract. So it's, that bit of a kick in the guts when you think you're on your way up and then it goes back down. So, yeah, to get that phone call, to go over to be back up for Ryan Harris definitely let me know that I was in the selectors' minds. And then later that same year, so that was kind of February, March, the end of the cricket season. And then I was at the Cricket Academy during that winter, and then got another similar phone call. Both these phone calls resulted in me on an international flight later the same day, which is a fun way to do it. And so, yeah, that second one in the July, I think it was, ended up on a plane to England. And this time Ryan Harris had, unfortunately for him, done his knee and was out of the Test squad. So they brought me in, not just as a backup, but this time actually into the squad. So I was 12th man for, it was Steve Smith and Tim Payne's debut at Lords against Pakistan. And then we played up in Leeds after that, Headingley. So I was 12th man for both of those. So it definitely felt very close, especially when Hilfenhaus kind of hurt his shoulder in the first Test. And I was not that you ever wish, anything negative on your teammates, of course. But, yeah, that felt like I was on this close here.
Yeah, you're like, rubbing up to Hilfenhaus there. Oh, come on, Hilf. You're feeling a bit sore. Come on, give a brother another chance. Give me a chance. I'm desperate. But obviously,
it would have been amazing.
Any injuries or whatever. But that's just the way it is. Really, you just got to be on alert and be on standby for whenever you're
ready if the opportunity comes. Yeah.
So, being a part of that environment, did you feel like, okay, I played with most of these guys in Shield cricket, some of my teammates either for Australia A or other forms of cricket. Did you feel comfortable in the setup knowing that you haven't played a Test yet, but did you feel like, I could get used to this? It's no different to any other environment really in cricket. It's just the Australian cricket team. It's a bit different because of the name and the status, but did you feel comfortable and like it's just like any other dressing room? They all muck around, they all banter and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, it's a bit of both. There's definitely a lot of elements to it that are just the same as what you've been in. Obviously, in terms of like a professional environment, I did notice there was a significant probably intensity level increase in the seriousness that was taken there. I think because of how quickly I came up through the ranks, there was a few like Hilfenhaus. I'd spent some time at the academy with him, but we had Ricky Ponting was still captain of the Test side. So I'm like, I grew up watching you play Test cricket, captain the side. So that was just incredible. Kind of felt like a dream in that sense. So that's there's this whole unreal side of it, and then a very kind of real and semi-normal side of it as well. So, I was, like I say, definitely impressed by the intensity, even fielding sessions and those sorts of things. It's a bit of a step up there. But, I think one thing, and maybe it's kind of coming from South Australia, like for me, playing for South Australia, having grown up, born and bred South Australian, that was obviously, a great honour for me representing my state. I think the nature of domestic cricket is you've got a lot of players that, like we've mentioned before, move states and are not playing for their home state necessarily. So, there's still a prestige and an honour of playing Sheffield Shield cricket, but I think there was this extra level in the Australian setup that no matter what your journey had been to get there, whether you'd moved states 5 times or, you'd kind of just gone the way through, all of us were representing our country. And all of us were there, had been watching Test cricket as a kid. We were all there living out our childhood dreams. And there was, whether people kind of said that out loud and acknowledged it, which did happen occasionally. But, it was just kind of this known thing of like, this is just such an honour to be here, that we're all living out our childhood dreams. But also there is a massive responsibility as well. Like I talk about with the intensity and the seriousness of it, there's a responsibility to represent the cap well, represent our country well.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. So that leads us on, Peter, to the test match. Of course, we have to talk about it. The brief test career, which only lasted 1 test. So you're a part of the One Cap Wonder Club, which is there's quite a many cricketers who've played 1 test for Australia. Obviously, we mentioned Stuart Law before. Your South Australian teammates who you would have come cross paths in your journey, obviously Callum Ferguson, Chad Sayers, Joe Mennie, they all played 1 test, sadly. Yeah. And many others as well. And it's the same in world cricket all round. But you have the honour and the privilege of playing for your country, and no one can take that away from you. So with that being said, you finally get the opportunity. It was in India in a very tough series in 2010 at Bengaluru. They've changed the names around it, formerly known as Bangalore, and they've changed the names. But anyway, Bangalore, Bengaluru, same thing, at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium. You finally get the call up. I do believe it was for Doug Bollinger, who was injured, if I'm correct, that you replaced him in the side. So you got the call up. Right. And obviously you had the opportunity, and that series, Australia lost 2-0. They lost the first test by a narrow 1 wicket with Laxman and Oja getting them over the line in a frantic scene at the end there. It was quite intense. He wasn't happy, Laxman with Oja, running between the wickets. So they got over the line there, and then in the second test, they just pummeled Australia by 7 wickets, and Sachin Tendulkar put on a masterclass, which he always does. He made 200.
Yep.
And obviously, your bag of green was presented by Ricky Ponting, of course, and the rest is history. And we interviewed Nathan Horrocks on the podcast a while back now, Peter. Obviously, your teammate in this test match, it turned out to be his final test and your only test. So there's a bit of irony there and some sort of spiritual connection, you may say, because both of your careers ended right there and there. But, what are your memories from your test debut, Peter? And did you know that would be your only test that you would play at that time? Yeah.
Definitely some amazing memories. I think I found out the day before the test that I was going to play. The first test I was 13th man or whatever I was, obviously Bollinger got injured in that last innings. So I had a feeling that I was close. I think Mitch Stark and James Patterson were in the same squad. So, they did have other fast bowling options, and those boys ended up going on. Obviously, we obviously know what Starkey went on to do. So, at that time, I'd kind of outperformed them in the A series leading up to that, and kind of had my hand firmly up as the next in line. So I felt pretty confident after Bollinger was injured that I was potentially going to get the nod. So, it was just surreal though. The morning of the test, I I was fortunate enough to hear Ricky Ponting give his, Test cap presentation speech a number of times before that. Like I mentioned earlier, I was there for Ryan Harris's debut, Steve Smith and Tim Payne. So I'd heard the speech a couple of times before. So standing there in the middle of the Test squad, hearing Ricky Ponting make this speech, I just had to keep reminding myself, I'm like, this is for me. He's giving me, he's holding a baggy green cap. This is for me. So it was just, the word surreal is kind of pretty apt, but almost doesn't feel like it does it justice. It did just feel like I was in a dream. And so, yeah, we won the toss and batted, and so spending the entire first day sitting down doing nothing, as you do as the number 11. When your team bats well, which we did, that was probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life. Was who was it that got out for the ninth wicket? There was a run out, I think, that got sent up to the third umpire.
Nathan Horrocks. I've got the scorecard in front of me. I think
there you go.
Yeah, so he got run out by Cheshwar Pujara, who debuted also in that Test match as well for England.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So I remember that going to third umpire and thinking. And I think that's the first ever game I played with a third umpire. So it was interesting to kind of be like, oh, I can see on the replay, it looks like this is going to be out. And I just remember as soon as it was like, oh, that's out, my whole body just like froze up, because I wasn't even that nervous later, that obviously not very long later, because I didn't last very long with the bat, nor did I usually. But I wasn't even that nervous when I had the ball in my hand, just because I know how to bowl. I just, as my stats show, I did not know how to bat. So walking out to bat for Australia in a Test match, with this, Indian crowd cheering and making noise, and the heat and the humidity and everything, it was, just unbelievable to think back on that, and managing to hit Oja for a little loopy bunt over mid-off for a couple of runs. Which is probably 2 more Test runs than anyone thought I'd ever be able to get. So happy with that. And so, the memory of that game, then when we were, we obviously took the field very shortly after that. So we had Hilfenhaus and Mitch Johnson open the bowling. Ponting gave me the nod pretty early. I think Johnson only bowled a couple of overs before I got the nod to come on from his end, because they're like, we want to keep him fresh because Dravid is his bunny. So keep him fresh, and once we get the first wicket, then bring Mitch Johnson back on to take on Dravid. So I found myself bowling to Sehwag in my first over of Test cricket. I say I wasn't that nervous. I was obviously very nervous still. But I think there's something that definitely feels quite at home standing at the top of a mark, kind of, looking in. That's one of those things that's like, well, that doesn't change. I can control my little area patch of the ground here, which is, where I can run in and bowl. It doesn't matter who's holding the bat down the other end. There's still 3 stumps there that I'm aiming at. Well, 1 really. So I think my first ball went down leg side, because I had an interesting conversation with Ricky Ponting like just before that, because it was like he'd told me what field he's setting, and he's I'm like, it kind of set this leg side field. I'm like, well, where are you wanting me to bowl? I'd kind of in my mind thinking, I just want to bowl short at Sehwag, because I don't want to give him anything in his half because he will nail me. Ponting wanted me to bowl, basically hit his leg stumps. I'm like, okay, Ricky Ponting asked you to do something, you try to do it. So I did that first ball down leg. Unfortunately, the next couple of balls actually got hit back past me for 4. And then I went with a couple of short balls and kind of got out the over. And then the next over, actually, Hilfenhaus got him out with a short ball. And then so Johnson was back on to bowl to Dravid. So yeah, my first spell in Test cricket was 1 over. Went for 9 runs. So maybe not one to remember that fondly, but the plan did work though. Johnson got Dravid out pretty quick time, so yeah, it obviously all worked out.
Yes, well, in doing that brought Tendulkar to the crease, and he smashed 214, and you were very lucky to get him out as your first Test wicket.
Well, he was, yeah.
Obviously, you joined the list of bowlers who've got him out in world cricket, obviously, but it was a bit too late. He already made 200. Would have liked to get him out early on in the innings. But
yeah, well, I like to tell people is even harder to get him out when he's seeing him like beach balls like that. So obviously it takes a takes a bit more to get past him. But yeah, I just keep telling myself anyway. Nothing to do with him being tired from being out there a day and a half.
Yes, definitely. But what was that like? Obviously, playing a Test match for Australia is great, and you're like, how lucky I am being here. That emotion and adulation. And then you're bowling to Sachin Tendulkar at the top of your mark. You must be thinking, this can't be real. This must be a dream. I watched him growing up as a kid, smashing Australia to all parts, in the 90s and in the 2000s. And then 2010, it was towards the back end of his career. And I think in that series, he ticked over 14,000 Test runs, I think.
He did. Something like that. It was during that innings, actually.
Yes.
14,000, yeah.
Yeah, so he was breaking all sorts of records and all that stuff. Crowd going off of the M. Chimaswamy for Tendulkar. What was that like, watching him? Obviously, from an indulgence point of view, I just want to see him bat because I'm watching it in the flesh. It's up close and personal rather than from afar on TV. But I want to get I want to get the guy out, and you did.
Yes.
So talk us through that, bowling to him, and then obviously getting him out and the emotions of that, because the boys got around you, obviously, for your first Test wicket. So take us through that, process of bowling to Tendulkar when he's on. It was
incredible. Yeah. I mean, he obviously was out there for quite a long time, getting to 200. So I think I managed to get one past him early in his innings. I kind of bowled an accidental Yorker, which I'll claim was a deliberate Yorker. I kind of just missed off stump, so could have had him out earlier. But that's the game. If you always get too worried about the coulda, shouldas, you'll go insane. You nailed it exactly. Like being out there, just kind of witnessing this man who is just incredibly gifted batsman. What he was able to achieve through his career, so it was weird. Like a few times during the innings, you just notice the crowd seems to have gotten really loud, like barely hearing it. Like can't hear fielders, like we're talking to each other, and I'll look up and see, Sachin's in the 90s. The crowd's kind of doubled, and then the noise of him. He went past 100, he went past 150, he went past his 14,000th Test run, he went past his double 100. So every time he was getting close to a milestone, the crowd is getting really loud. And then when he brings up the milestone, it's just deafening, like people screaming in your ears. Just all of that, just, an unbelievable experience. But all at the same time, you're thinking, how the heck am I going to get this guy out? And I had to ask that question to Dougie Bollinger, who was walking around the boundary, with a drink at one point. It was actually shortly before I got him out. I remember just thinking, man, this wicket is so flat. The ball is doing nothing. His bat looks like it's this wide. How do you take wickets at this level? This is just ridiculous. And I can't remember what Dougie said. It was not overly helpful. We just kind of make a joke out of it. And it was just, I think he just was like, yep, I'm pretty happy I'm not playing this Test, to be honest. Something along those lines, which is just kind of like, how are you meant to get this guy out? And then, the ball that eventually did get him, it was funny. It was something that I had kind of not invented, but I tried at the Cricket Academy earlier that season, because I was usually quite an upright bowler. I'd started just, as you do, mucking around at the Cricket Academy, just living and breathing cricket day in, day out. And I thought, what would be interesting if I tried my best kind of Sean Tate impersonation. So I started practicing them in the nets, just randomly, dropping a big slinging sort of action, which felt like I was bowling from here, but, it was just a little bit lower than normal. But I had tried it a few times and noticed that, it gets a little bit extra when the ball's reversing. That slinging sort of action gets that little bit extra. So I in hindsight, maybe I should have tried it a lot sooner in the innings, but I was running into bowl that particular delivery, and it just kind of popped into my head. I tried a few things that innings, including some slow ball bounces that were on their way down again by the time they get to the batter, which when I proposed that in the team meeting the night before, everyone was just like deadpan silent in the team, in the change rooms. And then people were just like, is he serious? Like, you're joking, right? And then when I actually did it in the test the next day, everyone just absolutely lost it laughing. So yeah, I tried a few different things, but this particular ball, I thought I'll try the slinging one. And yeah, I guess I had that little bit more swing than what Sachin was expecting, and managed to take the inside edge onto the stump. So yeah, that it wasn't until afterwards I realised that it was just dead silence in the entire stadium with just one bloke in the middle of the field kind of screaming like an excited kid because I'd gotten him out and gotten a wicket.
Yes, no. Watching the highlights and from memory, yeah, walking off and everyone dead silent, as you said. They always were when Tendulkar got out because they wanted to see him bat for hours, and he was on this occasion. He faced over 363 balls for his 200, so of course he's going to bat for hours and hours because he wanted to, because he loved batting, obviously. Yeah. That's why he was great. And then you got him out. Did you go up to him and shake his hand as you would to acknowledge a batter's proud milestone, or were you just too worried about celebrating with the team and just elated because you got the wicket?
Yeah, probably the latter. I remember I've seen a photo somewhere where he's got the helmet off, I think celebrating his double ton. I was walking back to my market. I was just fielding in mid-off or wherever I was. So I managed to sneak myself in the background of that photo, just clapping his 200. But yeah, obviously shook his hand at the end of the game. It's quite surreal. I kind of look back and I kind of wish there was a bit more of for some reason, that we didn't go in either rooms. I think maybe whether it was security or whether it was, for whatever reason, that it would have been pretty cool to get in the rooms and sit down and have a beer with him, so to speak. But I just had to kind of say well done to him, shaking his hand at the end of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, one test. It's not a long career, obviously, Peter, but it's more than 16 years ago when you think about it. It's 2026, and that was 2010. So 16 years ago, it flies pretty quickly, time. Did you have did you take it in at the time? Did you enjoy the moment, or was it just overwhelming and just you weren't able to soak it in and enjoy it at the time? But as time's moved on, you've been able to reflect and enjoy it for what it was, really, because you couldn't have asked for a better one-off test, really, getting out Sachin Tendulkar and getting out Zahir Khan, which was another great Indian bowler as well. Yeah. Obviously made some runs with the bat and then got out for a duck. So you've completed the set there.
That's right, yeah.
So it's not bad of a debut when you think about it.
Wouldn't have been true to character. It is, I think, a bit of both. I remember at one point sitting, it's the beauty of a test match, right? It's 5 days. So you've got time to kind of sit and reflect. Your team's batting. So there's a lot of that kind of ebbs and flows of the game when you're, in the thick of the action, you're bowling, or even when you're in the field versus just, sitting down in the rooms. I remember that test match, I was sitting in between Mike Hussey and Marcus North. We were sitting either side of me in the change rooms, and I was just sitting there one afternoon, just holding my baggy green, just sitting there, just staring at it. And it was Hussey next to me. He was just like, pretty awesome, eh? And he's like, I'll still do that. I'll still pinch myself every time I look at it. Like, how good is this? So, I do reflect back and think, I was appreciating it at the time. you kind of asked before, like, did I know it was going to be only one chance? No, in my mind, this is like, like I said, to that point, I'd just been going up and up and up. So in my mind, it wasn't just kind of, oh no, I've achieved it now, I've gotten the baggy green. It was definitely my dream was to, take 1,000 test wickets. It's just sort of like, there's always more. But yeah, I do think being surreal and just feeling like it was kind of happening in a dream. But, so I think it's, a bit of both. Like I was, stopping to enjoy the moment, even though it felt really surreal. But, to go to your question of, did I think this was going to be my one and only test? Definitely not. I think, to that point I'd been going up and up and up. So I, was, I guess, expecting that I would just kind of be in and around the system. And, was my dream was to, have a long and fruitful test career. But yeah, definitely during that test, I look back and do think that, I was pinching myself and trying to soak in, there's a memory of sitting in the change rooms one evening, kind of looking at my baggy green and just kind of just admiring it. And I was during that test match sitting in between Mike Hussey and Marcus North. Mike Hussey, like they were both, doing the similar sorts of things, and we were talking about how much of an honour it was and that sort of thing. So Mike Hussey actually said, yeah, I still do that. I still just stare at it sometimes and get it out of my sock drawer at home and just look at it because it's just such an honour. And it's just an amazing experience. But I don't think I would necessarily change anything if I had my time again. But it would have been amazing to get a few more opportunities to represent my country. But I definitely I won't regret the fact that I got that opportunity, and I'm very grateful.
Yes, definitely. And sometimes these things happen. Really, selectors go in a different direction, and obviously around about that time in 2010, Australia were going through a bit of a phase in terms of transition, and obviously planning for an Ashes series that year as well. And obviously some up and coming fast bowlers were coming, like Stark and Cummins, and who debuted in the next year, and then obviously Josh Hazlewood a few years after that as well.
That's right. I think I knew, I kind of knew, I guess at the time, that it was going to be an opportunity because of injuries and things. Like obviously Bollinger had injured that test, but we had Ryan Harris, Peter Siddle were out. So I had a good sense that they were all coming back for the Ashes series, which was going to be after that. But yeah, I think it was kind of unfortunate to not manage to push my way back to where I was. Like you say, a few young guys, Mitchell Stark being one of them, come and overtake me, which is obviously he's gone on to amazing things.
Yes, definitely. Obviously would like to play more, but do you think just only playing one test makes it more special than if you played like 50 or 100 tests? You're like, does it feel different that you've only played one and it's more special than, let's say, you played like 50 tests? Or does it have a different vibe about it?
I guess I can't speak for someone who's played 50 test matches, but like I mentioned, Mike Hussey, I think, he obviously, got into the test side later in his career, but, was playing and had played a lot more. But I think just from the experience I had of seeing the guys that were there for more tests, even Ricky Ponting and, over 100 test matches and looking at his original baggy green, which was falling apart, that he went out to do the toss in, and then obviously his other one that he would wear on field, because if he wore his original one on field, it would literally just blow away in the wind probably. But the seeing how much they appreciated it, and I don't think anyone in that side took for granted where we were and what we were doing. For me, I think there's so much honour and history in the baggy green. I think there's a little bit of, I don't know, not embarrassment, but like kind of like I'm not at the level of those guys. I didn't play 50 or 100 test matches, so I don't deserve to be kind of in the same sentence as those guys. But, just to have my small part of it and what I appreciate about the baggy green itself, it's like, it's etched in stone there, like, so to speak, that, baggy green, your number, it's very humbling and very much an honor, like walking around, here at Adelaide Oval. There's South Australian players that have represented Australia in Test cricket, and there's my name there along with some of those others that you mentioned earlier. So just being part of that history, whether it was one test or 100 tests, I think that is incredible. Would I have wanted more? Yeah, definitely. But like I say, everyone's got a sob story of why they could have, should have, would have played higher. But I'm definitely grateful for what I did get.
Yes, definitely. And you mentioned the baggy green there, Peter, as well. And everyone has a different perspective. Former and current players who've played Test cricket for Australia have a different perspective when it comes to the baggy green and what it means to play Test cricket for Australia, unlike our mere mortals who haven't experienced that. But what does it mean to you, Peter? What does the baggy green and playing Test cricket for Australia mean to you? You touched on a little bit there, but what does it mean when you look at that baggy green? I'm sure you do after all these years. But what does it mean to you and that pride in representing the country?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a few different kind of aspects to it. There's definitely the aspect of like personally everything for me that led to getting to that point of playing cricket for Australia. From like we've gone through today, like the dreaming about it as a kid, all the coaches and mentors and obviously my family that helped me every step along the way. So there's so much of that kind of personal achievement, but also, the things that were outside of my control through that period. We speak a bit about coaching and selectors and that sort of thing. So, I'm very grateful for all the things that went well, that went right for me to get that opportunity. But I mean, another aspect of it is even now kind of looking back after my career and, having that there at home, just sitting there on display. And I hope it's something that my kids can look at and, feel hopefully inspired that, whether it's cricket or whether it's sport or anything they want to pursue in life, that, you don't have to be the best necessarily. You don't have to have been the standout performer throughout your entire childhood. But if you stick at it, you believe you can, and you work hard enough, that kind of anything's possible. I guess it sounds a bit cliche when you say it like that, but I hope that that aspect of what it means to my extended family, and even bigger and beyond that, I guess what most people would talk about is obviously the history of the cap itself, and being part of that big history, like I was mentioning a bit earlier.
Yes, definitely. I think that's a great answer to that question there, Peter. Well put. Definitely. Now then, that's the talking about yourself bit done, Peter. Let's get into this cricket discussion. I chose some topics to talk about and discuss in our chat today. And obviously, this one is your expertise in your current role and job description, I suppose now, post-playing cricket is umpiring, because you're now a full-time cricket umpire and you do umpiring there. And that's your career path after finishing playing, really. It's not uncommon to see former players take up umpiring, whether it be first-class cricketers or international cricketers. We see that in umpiring around the world in cricket. So that's the journey you've embarked on. And obviously do some great work with the SACA, with the match officials, and work with them, obviously at Adelaide Oval, where You're currently sitting in one of the stands there, as we can see there in your backdrop, which is wonderful. One of my favorite grounds in the world, Peter. Obviously, both of us South Australians. Of course, we're going to say that.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful ground to watch cricket and any other sport as well. And also, you're the third umpire that we've interviewed on the podcast. Really, Mary Walden and Daryl Harper were the couple of umpires that we've interviewed in the past. So it's always good to get umpires on to share that side of things as well, Peter, because many people think about umpiring. Really? You want to stand out there in the middle and count to 6 and, memorize all 42 laws plus playing conditions and plus other things? It's really exciting. Well, it is. Obviously, I'm an umpire myself, Peter, and obviously you are as well. So we have many watching and listening who may be umpires as well and wanting to learn from other umpires, which is a part of why you do the job, is to get better. But obviously, Peter, as I mentioned, you work with the SACA and you do some work there with the match officials in South Australia here. Tell us a bit about your role and what you do, and obviously your journey into umpiring. Why did you want to go down the route of umpiring after finishing playing? Some other people, when they finish playing, they either go in the media or do that, or coaching, but you decided to go into umpiring. So tell us a bit about your role with the SACA and also the umpiring journey.
Yeah. Obviously here at Adelaide Oval, I pinch myself every day. I feel so lucky walking into Adelaide Oval to go to work. I just absolutely love it here. Some great memories. But I was last year. I had been working in a business trying to develop technology in cricket, actually, which we can talk about or not. But once that kind of was not looking like it was going ahead, I thought, well, I want to be involved in cricket. I'd already started umpiring at that point, which I guess I can go back and talk about how that all came about. But my role now, I started working for the SACA late last year. Actually started in the membership team, the call center. So kind of as the very junior casual role, but very quickly got an opportunity to come over into community cricket, where I'm working now. So I'm working with match officials. I'm also working in clubs and schools, helping the head of clubs and schools with various different projects and things. But very obviously passionate about the match officials space, given that I am one. And it's part of my role. Mostly last season was helping onboard new umpires, which is exciting. We're getting some good numbers of people interested in starting their umpiring journey, which is great to be part of. That's kind of where I am now, and why I'm lucky enough to be sitting here doing this interview from Adelaide Oval. Hope the aeroplanes and the lawnmowers haven't been making too much background noise for you. But so how I actually ended up getting into umpiring, for me, I trace it back to one of the last Shield matches I was involved in as a player. I was 12th man for Queensland versus Tasmania versus Queensland down in Hobart. And as we do at the end of the we actually won that test match. It was test match. My brain's still in the last part of the conversation. We won that Shield game, actually. It was a great run chase. But the conversation over a couple of drinks after the Shield game was as kind of happened probably more than we'd like to admit. A few of us complaining about some of the umpiring decisions. And there was some comments made. Andy Bickle actually was kind of just reminiscing about how some of the best umpires are past players. And he's like, we need more past players umpiring. He's like, Georgie, you should umpire. You'd be a good umpire. And I'm like, no way, I don't want to do that. To me, in my head, umpiring was like, I'd been out, you go out on field, you're out there for a day and a half, and then finally the team either declares or you bowl them out. Eventually you come back in the rooms, you're in the shower, you're coming out of the shower and you look up on the screen, our opening batters are walking out there, but there's the umpires walking back out there. It's like they've been out there the whole time I'm absolutely wrecked. The last thing I want to do right now is go back out on that field. But obviously, standing out in the field, counting to 6, as you put it, is a heck of a lot easier than actually running off the long run and bowling. So, but that was enough. That kind of that, I guess, of a seed of an idea from Andy Bickle after that Shield game. And then when I lost my contract, the end of that career, end of that season, had a couple of years out of the game, trying to get my business up and running. We moved back to Adelaide. And I just kind of got that itch again to get back out on the field, or at least get back involved in the game. But I think, that idea that was kind of planted a year or two earlier, I thought, actually, I'll give umpiring a go, see if I like it. From my very first game, I did a 4th grade game down in Glenelg here in the Adelaide South Australian district cricket competition, and I just loved it from ball one. It was just like, wow, this is awesome. Being back out in the middle, it's just been such a good opportunity to stay involved in the game and hopefully give back to the game a little bit. But it's whether it turns into an actual professional career out of it or not. It's feeling like, again, I'm in that position where, like I was as a player, there's a bit of a belief certainly there that it's possible, but starting to make my way up through the ranks of umpiring, which is starting to make it feel a bit more and more real that it could genuinely be possible to get up into umpiring Shield cricket and hopefully beyond.
Yes, definitely. It's all about that persistence and perseverance and just improving, really. It's no different to playing, really. That's why you do the job, is want to get better. That's why you play the game, because you want to get better and test yourself and challenge yourself. In terms of doing that. Obviously, we've seen cricket umpiring change in so many ways, Peter, with technology. You mentioned you designed your own technology there, becoming more involved in the game. DRS, third umpire, you mentioned that, the test match you played, as we've discussed before, that was the first time you played with a third umpire, because all the others, you didn't have a third umpire in domestic cricket. So it's come a long way, technology and ball tracking and DRS and all that stuff. And as we saw last summer in the Ashes, some controversies, especially at Adelaide Oval with Alex Carey. We won't be too biased. Peter obviously went on to make a wonderful 100, but, was he out or not? Jamie Smith in the same game as well. So there was some dubious decisions there as it happens in cricket. And it's, being sort of that thing for many years now. And it's changed definitely in terms of techniques and methods. And we've seen that at the international level and grassroots. But how do you assess the current state of umpiring within cricket, Peter, from your perspective? How do you see it going at the moment?
I think it's a good point you bring up around DRS. I think, to me, DRS has proven how good umpires actually are. There's obviously, what gets highlighted is obviously when umpires get them wrong, and I think that's the nature of the job, the nature of the role as an umpire. No one talks about the 18 decisions you got correct. They talk about the one you got wrong. And so, obviously we want to minimize those. And I think DRS has been good for the game to, remove those howlers where an umpire just for whatever reason, hasn't seen it right. And maybe they give benefit of the doubt because they think, oh, gee, I just did not pick that up, so I can't give it out. Or maybe they just, missed an inside edge and gave out an LBW or something like that. I think DRS is good to help correct those. But to me, what it's done is I think the stats I was looking up when I was working on my business, I think over 10 years of DRS at that point, out of thousands of DRS reviews, I think only 25% of them have been overturned. And I think now, since they've been taking statistics on these things, the umpires at that level, they're getting 97, 98% decision accuracy. So, I think to me, the technology is actually proving that the umpires do get them right most of the time. And then I think the other thing it's done is helped umpires at lower levels, because you're starting to get the more ball tracking and that sort of things have come into the game, the more you can kind of watch something live and you go, oh, that's out. But then you see the ball tracking, oh, actually that's missing leg, or it's going over the top is a more common one, where it's like that's probably the hardest to judge, is how much bounces, whether it's going over or not. I think the fact that you're getting that instant feedback of, oh, should that be out or should it not be out? I think that helps even at lower levels when you don't have the assistance of the technology, but you're getting that kind of, I guess, coaching from the higher levels.
Yes, definitely. It's all about that feedback. And I suppose that chase for perfectionism, which is never going to happen, but people always want 100%. We saw it last summer in the Ashes about Snicko and obviously Ultra Edge. One's better than the other one, but they still have their problems. Same with Hotspot as well. That's why we don't use Hotspot anymore in Australia, because that has its problems as well. Ball tracking, umpires call how much percent of the ball is hitting the stump and whether it should be out or not out from that. And also other things as well that are impacting the game as well, from laws, playing conditions. Should we simplify it to catches? Obviously, that's reared its head now with Mitchell Starc after what happened at Lords in 2023. That's sort of become a thing now, where umpires are really looking at that in terms of controlling your own movement. But the law doesn't specify that in terms of how many seconds or what you should do or not. So a bit of a grey area there, which is a lot in cricket. So things like that. And do you think it's unrealistic from us cricket fans, Peter? Obviously, we want the decisions to be correct, but do you think this perfectionism and technology, even in the IPL, they're reviewing wides and measuring batters with their waist and for waist-high deliveries, and also wides as well, sort of taking a lot of things that umpires should be making out of their hands and putting it into technology? Do you think we've gone too far in terms of technology taking over? Do we need to get the balance back? Or do you think it's just the way the 21st century is, and all sports, not just cricket, are going down this route of perfectionism, which is not going to be realistic?
Yeah,
even if people wanted to.
I think to me it's about balance between the game just kind of flowing and not stopping every 2 minutes to review something. I think no one really likes that, but at the same time, whether you're an umpire, whether you're a fan, whether you're a player, you want the game to run correctly. That's basically the job as an umpire, is that the game runs correctly. So yeah, I think for me it's been something that has stood out for me even back from when I was a player. When some controversial moment would happen, that maybe there's a grey area, or sometimes there's actually not a grey area. It's just kind of a perception of a grey area. I consider myself probably a little bit of a nerd. So I'd go to the point of actually going and checking the playing conditions, which I think many players actually ever do. So I was probably a little bit of a starting point that helped with my umpiring, is that I already was someone who knew how to look up in the laws and playing conditions to find the nitty gritty of what the actual ruling should be. I think, that's something that it did, light the fire of passion that started my business, but now is also flowing into my umpiring, is, just wanting the game to run correctly, to run smoothly. I think, like I mentioned, the balance of stopping the game and reviewing everything is the challenging part. I think that actually was the technology that I was developing, was to try to get the answer we wanted, get the correct decision without having to wait for it, was basically the technology. I think it's just a natural part of the game now. I think it's something that basically just needs to be accepted. I think, unfortunately, the technology is never going to be perfect. The third umpire, as much as they're trying to make they're trying to make a decision, the best decision they can on the evidence that they've got. But even that's still a human decision at the end of the day. Sometimes that can be wrong, or combining some not perfect technology with an imperfect human, you're not ever going to actually achieve perfection, like you say there. But I think it's natural that we would want to try to pursue it as best we can.
Yes, definitely. It's just one of those things, really, in cricket that everyone wants. We've all been there. We've all had a dodgy decision, even if we've been playing or as an umpire, you give a decision and you think, oh, probably I shouldn't have given that. Maybe you smashed the cover off it or something like that for an LBW.
I think there'd probably be a few batters that don't like DRS because it means they can't complain about the umpire's decision anymore. Because you see some batters who get hit on the pads, maybe they've hit their own foot with their bat or something, and they're just adamant that they've hit the ball, so straight away reviewing it, and then sure enough, they're nowhere near the ball absolutely plummeting the stumps, and you're just like, yep. Sorry, Walker Power, you would have been better off just complaining about it and telling everyone that you got a stinker.
Well, I think Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne will fall under that category. They don't like getting out. They don't think they're out. They review everything.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, as I said, it's certainly taken over. That's for sure. And people focusing on technology and all that stuff, and wanting it to be perfect every time. But do you think that it's important for umpires coming through the system to make sure that they're working on the basics and the fundamentals of umpiring and not being too reliant on technology, and also have that instinct side of the role, because that's pretty much what you go with, is with your gut. Whether you think something's out or not out, you just go with your gut. Do you think that's important?
I think you can't get in and through to the point of having a third umpire to help you as an umpire without having had quite a decent journey of umpiring without any assistance to get to that point. So I guess you're forced into a position where you obviously need to be making sound judgments with kind of in the moment without any help or any replays. But yeah, like I mentioned, obviously I think the more, if an upcoming umpire, the more you can watch cricket on TV, the more you get yourself access to see as many different reviews as you can, because you're starting to see, well, these are the decisions that umpires potentially struggling with, or that players complain about, and you start to get just build your database of information for being able to make as best decision as you can. But yeah, at the end of the day, for the most of the umpiring career, you're going to be on your own out there with your partner. But at the end of the day, there's an LBW appeal. You're the only one that can make the decision on that.
Yes, definitely. Have there been other umpires that you've looked up to or have seen their work from afar, and you're like, oh, I really like the way he or she goes about that? I know at the Adelaide Oval during the Adelaide Test, they always have the match officials who are actually umpiring the game talk to umpires there at the SACA. The match officials do a bit of a talk there, which is fantastic. Did you do one for the Ashes last summer?
I was actually lucky enough to be involved. I interviewed the umpires we had for the Test match that were here for that event, which was that was very cool. For me, I think some of the umpires that I had at Shield level, I really looked up to Blocker Wilson, and also another one Test fast bowler from South Australia.
That's right.
So I think he was someone that I kind of thought, I guess being a similar playing background, it kind of was like, well, here's someone that's kind of shown the path for someone like me that might want to try to do that. He's one that sticks out in my mind. But I think for me the important thing is, even though I'm very comfortable out on a cricket field, it is a different role. And so from when I first started doing it, I've been trying to just learn as much as I can from every umpire that I stand with, and I'll ask them questions before, during, and after the game. And clearly there's umpires that have had a lot more experience than I have, so I just try to learn as much as I can from all of them.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about absorbing the knowledge and learning from others, which is an important thing to do, really, when it comes to umpiring. And playing as well, when you're playing the game of cricket itself, it's always important to learn from coaches and other teammates as well about that. We may have some up-and-coming umpires listening and watching this episode today, Peter, wanting to get into umpiring but unsure about how to go about it. So what advice would you give to any up-and-coming umpires who may be thinking about going to the dark side?
Well, look, I would definitely encourage it. For me, it's I think most umpires, the common journey is you kind of get to a point in your playing career where you either feel like you're not going to get any higher, or you might have kind of aged out of playing at the level that you want to play at. It's definitely umpiring is an opportunity to stay involved in the game. For me, it's you mentioned before about being in the media or being in coaching. I mean, I probably have maybe my personality suits umpiring a bit better than either of those roles, but I think for me, being out in the middle as an umpire is something, just unless you're actually playing, that's your next best opportunity to actually be out there contributing to the game in that way. So to me, that's a major draw card for someone who's played the game at whatever level. Another part of it is getting the opportunity to potentially umpire at a level higher than what your playing career might have ever afforded you the opportunity. So that's an exciting prospect for anyone to get into umpiring. But my encouragement would be, just give it a go, see if you like it. You might hate it, you might love it. Hopefully you love it. And I mean, it's the best seat in the house to watch some hopefully some really good cricket. I've been lucky enough to go up through the ranks, like I say, and I've managed to be out there and watch some pretty awesome cricket. So my encouragement would be, if you're serious about doing it, then obviously reach out to us here at the Sacker, and or wherever you're watching this podcast, find your local cricket association and look into the pathway to be joining umpiring, and then once you're in, it's a matter of everyone thinks they know the laws, everyone thinks they're familiar with the playing conditions, but I think you don't realise just how kind of intricate some of the things. You find yourself in a situation where it's like, oh, I don't actually know what to do in this situation. So, the more you can really have a strong understanding of all the laws, I think it helps a lot of confidence out there in the field, because you don't feel like, oh, I hope this certain situation doesn't happen because I wouldn't know what to do. So, once you kind of get that head knowledge, the rest is about just being out there and enjoying it, watching the game and staying relaxed and just calling how you see it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's good advice. And obviously I did mention earlier that we did interview Mary Walden and Daryl Harper, who have been very instrumental in South Australian cricket in terms of umpiring. And obviously both of them have gone on to umpire international cricket and do many other things in their journey. So if you want to listen to those episodes, they are available on the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast YouTube channel. I would suggest that you should watch both of those episodes. Both Mary and Daryl gave some very good advice when it comes to umpiring. And obviously Peter's given some good advice there, of course. So, it's always good to learn from other umpires and learn from other people in the profession. And there's definitely a career path, certainly now with the game being professional. The same with umpiring as well. It's definitely a profession that you can make a career out of if you're good enough and if you want to work hard to get to the top level. So, Peter, for our last topic, I thought we'd talk about South Australian cricket. It's only fitting because of what you do at the Sacker, but also the backdrop at the Adelaide Oval. Talk about it. You played for the state. And talk about the last couple of seasons, really, because it's been wonderful success, back-to-back Shield titles. Obviously, during your playing days, it wasn't great success. Obviously, there were some tough moments in those years, lack of success and lack of titles. But over the last couple of seasons, it's been fantastic to see back-to-back Shield wins, and what Ryan Harris has done since he's taken over from Jason Gillespie, who we interviewed on the podcast not that long ago, in terms of the head coach role. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts, Peter, looking on after years of retirement? What are your thoughts on how South Australia have gone over the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, I think if I could put it down to like one word, I would just say I'm proud. Proud of the boys, proud of Ryan Harris, proud of what they've done here, what they've achieved. To go back-to-back Shield titles. I was lucky enough to get an invite for both the end of season like awards nights, the Dancing Macaulay, which is the South Australian kind of night of nights, the end of the season. Very cool to be part of the SACA, especially over this last 12 months that now I've been working at the SACA. It's so cool to even just see the effect that the team's on-field success has, in the office. I look at what Ryan Harris has done with the squad. I can just see, even just looking in from the outside, the culture that he's managed to develop here. And I think off the back of what Jason Gillespie kind of did in the few years before that as well, you can see there's been a shift that, there's a real belief in the side. There's a mateship and a camaraderie where they believe that they can win. They believe in each other. That goes a really long way to that culture of a team that's, not afraid to take risks, not afraid if you get behind in a game, which inevitably over the course of a 4-day game, it ebbs and flows. You don't always sit ahead of the game. So, anyone can win if they're sitting ahead of the game the whole time. But I think the real challenge of a side is when they get behind the game, what character they show and whether they're able to, keep persisting at that and stay resilient and actually push through and do what it takes to win from a position where you're actually struggling a bit. And I think that's what we've seen in South Australia. That's where the shift has been for South Australia, where, I think, unfortunately, as you say, like probably back when I played, there was a bit of a mindset of, as soon as you kind of get behind in the game, it's like, oh, here we go again. It just felt like, the air comes out of the team a little bit, which, I found, I guess a bit, disappointing or frustrating at the time. I was one of these people that would just, the team might need 10 runs to win with 6 wickets in hand. I'll be like, give me the ball. I want to take 6 wickets in an over and win us the game here. So I think, but when you kind of hold on to that belief, like we can still win, and then unfortunately you lose, it hurts a heck of a lot more. So the natural tendency is to try to protect yourself from that. But what I'm most proud of is seeing that shift in the South Australian team over the last couple of years.
Yes, definitely. And obviously you're one of many South Australians to play Test cricket for Australia, obviously. And we have a couple of mainstays at the moment in Travis Head and Alex Carey doing wonderful things, as we saw in the Ashes last summer. And obviously yourself and, many on that list. And, Nathan McSweeney and Brendan Doggett in the last couple of summers against India and obviously the Ashes making their debuts, not from South Australia originally, but obviously representing South Australia, of course. Yeah. Do you think that helps in terms of
those boys, given that I played with them in Queensland and then now they've come
you did, yeah.
My home state, so
yeah. They've finally gotten to the state that they want to play at and obviously have opportunities, obviously, which they've made the most of. But do you think with the recent success that we're going to see more South Australian players come in the Test side? Obviously, when Jason Gillespie was playing, maybe him, Greg Blewett, sort of in that 90s, 2000s period, maybe Darren Lehman, they were the only South Australians to be in the Test side at the time. And now we've had Travis Head and Alex Carey come through, and they're mainstays, obviously, and doing tremendous stuff. Do you think with success, does that help in terms of a successful team getting noticed more by the selectors and hopefully players putting up their hand, like Jason Sanger in the first final in the run chase, and obviously Brendan Doggett, who bowled well in that final against Queensland, where he got 11 wickets or something like that. Obviously debuts for Australia in the Ashes last summer. So do you think that helps, that a successful culture and team leads to higher honours?
I think definitely. I think the fact that a team is successful, it's a combination of a bunch of individual performances. That is a culmination of, there's going to be some standout performers, and hopefully over the course of a season, we'll have more and more South Australians sitting near the top of those top performers. And like you say, it's got, the selectors are going to have to, be looking at the teams themselves, but what it is doing is it's putting South Australian players in a position where they're playing and winning Sheffield Shield finals. And when you stand up and perform in a game that big, as Brendan Doggett did, I think, he's going to be in and around. He already was in and around the setup before that. They're obviously looking at him because of how highly skilled and such a high quality player. But, surely that, match-winning performance in a Shield final with the ball went a majorly long way to getting him into the Test team. So, short answer, yes. I think definitely hopefully we see a lot more South Australians getting looked at and getting opportunities at that level.
Yeah, and obviously you must have come across paths with Travis Head and Alex Carey, when you were there at South Australia, of course, and seeing how they've developed into great players. Can you tell us a little bit about them both? What makes them so good as cricketers? Obviously, Travis has had a few years, and Alex Carey's wicket-keeping and batting has gone up to another level, especially during the Ashes last summer and even before that. So, give us a bit of an insight on both of them and how they operated and what makes them so good at what they do, obviously.
Yeah, I think over my career, I probably played against those guys more than I played with them. I remember playing against Trav Head in district cricket, and he scored 100 against us for Tea Tree Gully. And, it's just the way he goes about his batting, it's kind of that bit of no fear type approach where you just kind of see ball, hit ball. And I think there's a lot of love for that from Australian fans to, some of the innings that he's been able to produce. Obviously, in Perth, the first game of the Ashes last year, that was just incredible. And I think, that kind of jovial, looks like he's having fun out there type of an attitude. I think that's something that we all appreciate watching on, because it's like, man, what I wouldn't give to be out there doing that. I would be having fun if I was there. So it's, definitely makes a big difference. But more recently, I've had the opportunity to umpire both Alex and Travis a couple of times. And so, I think, just the way they go about their cricket, I think how hard Alex Carey works on his wicket keeping. There's a reason why they're standing out and doing what they're doing. I guess to tie it back to something that stood out in my career, one of your favourite players, Ricky Ponting. I remember out here playing a Shield match for South Australia against Tasmania, and this was late, what would have been one of the last Shield games that Ricky Ponting played. You kind of think if anyone kind of had the right to just kind of turn up and walk out to bat, it was Ricky Ponting at that stage in his career. It's like he's done all the work. He can just turn up and play now, surely. But one thing that I remember was, you'd get to the ground and there would be already someone in the nets, and it was Ricky Ponting. He'd be the first one here, be the first one in the nets training. They'd have a fielding session. He's the last one. He's still out there at the end getting extra. And it's like, well, there's a reason those guys get to the level they did and stay at the level and keep performing at that level, because they're actually, one, they're obviously very talented, but they're putting in the work as well. And so, yeah, all credit to those guys for being able to do what they've done.
Yes, definitely. And hopefully that will continue in the years to come. Obviously, still got a lot more to offer for both the state and for the country, of course, but they're doing tremendous work there. Obviously, Travis and Kez. Do you think we can do the three-peat next summer?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'd love to see.
It's a bit of a pattern because of WA winning 3 in a row, and then South Australia won the last 2. So if the pattern continues, then the three-peat's definitely on. But
yes. No, I think like we say, like you've got that belief that you can win. That's, you're a long way towards it already. And I think it's been mentioned in other interviews and things that I've seen that, the first year they just absolutely, smashed it, had a really strong season and won convincingly. And obviously, hosting the Shield final. But last year, the season itself, they had a lot more, whether it was injuries or tougher games, and then to win the Shield final as an away match, it just goes to show they kind of had to do it the hard way last year. So they've done both now. I'd like to, think that that's even just cemented a lot more of that belief of how much talent they have in the group, but how well they're going and that they're able to win from almost any position. Yeah,
definitely. And it's always good to see South Australia back on top after years of misery. 30 long years of pain and sorrow has finally come into success.
Yeah.
So it's
a few patches of white ball success in there, but I think we all measure ourselves on the red ball stuff. That's the real cricket.
Yeah, that's
real traditionalists at heart, maybe.
Yes. Well, obviously the Sheffield Shield has pride in place at Adelaide Oval, obviously on display in the museum there. It's rightful home. But it's good to see South Australia win a couple of Shields and hopefully the three-peat. Hopefully many more to come as well, and much more success. It's good to see the state finally getting back into winning ways. Well, Peter, we've finally reached the end of our long discussion today, but we've only got one more thing to do, Peter. We've got one more left in the day's play before stumps. Going into overtime, a bit of overrates, which is a big problem in the game. I thought I'd ask our listeners to send in their questions for you to answer. And we have a few listeners that have sent in some questions for you to answer. So thank you to everyone who sent in their questions for Peter. So let's get the over started, Peter, as we say. Let's get the first ball down the other end. So our first listener, Jihan, he's a regular listener of the podcast, big cricket fan himself. He's got 2 questions for you, Peter. So the first one is, I remember you making your debut in 2010 in the India series after Australia lost the first test narrowly. How different was it bowling in those conditions in India in terms of the pitch and weather to what you're used to in domestic cricket back in Australia? Did you feel like you had to make some adjustments straight away or just stick to what you knew best? So that's Jihan's first question to you, Peter.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. It definitely is different conditions. I think the biggest difference was probably the pitch itself, like the amount of bounce. So I think one of my weapons as a fast bowler is my height. I'm a pretty tall kind of guy. So that extra bounce that I could get, even on wickets that were flatter in Australia, there would still tend to be, enough bounce that I could be challenging the batters there with the bounce. So that was definitely something that made it a lot harder, given that the pitch was, kind of what you'd call a typical Indian dust ball of a pitch. So it was just kind of keeping low and not really zinging through it all. So that definitely made it challenging. The heat and humidity, you don't get so much humidity here in Adelaide, but up in Brisbane, you get decent amounts of humidity. So I think the fact that it was a test match, no matter how hot and humid and uncomfortable it got out there, I think you're just pinching yourself. You're so excited. You're running on so much adrenaline. I don't think the weather so much, had that much of an impact. But yeah, trying to get past the bats of Sehwag and Tendulkar and Dravid on a wicket that wasn't offering much. It tended to be probably the thing that stood out to me as the difference.
Yeah, definitely. And his second question for you, Peter, is before you were selected, I heard you had a reputation for being very tall and having decent pace. I also heard comparisons with Glenn McGrath. How did you feel about those comparisons, and were you envisioning a long career for Australia at the time?
I think, like I mentioned before, I was definitely humbled by a comparison to Glenn McGrath, given he was my idol growing up and also had such an amazing, successful career. I definitely dreamed to go on and play a lot of Test matches and have my career hopefully resemble his career, as well as just being tall and bowling the occasional outswinger. It's humbling to have that comparison for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for your questions there, Jihan. And finally, we have another question here from Nathan. He's one of my teammates, Peter, for the club I play for. His question to you is, what led to his transition from fast bowling to becoming a cricket umpire?
I think we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think for me the biggest thing was just being involved in the game, getting back out in the field. So it did help that, like I was a bit of a cricket nerd, and just probably a nerd in general, I must admit. But I think I'm passionate about kind of the game running correctly, which is a very nerdy thing to say. So that fits me well as an umpire.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And thanks for your question there, Nathan. And thanks to all who sent in their questions for Peter to answer. I hope his responses to those questions were to your satisfaction. No doubt they were. But thanks again to everyone who sent in their questions for Peter to answer. Well, Peter, thank you for joining me today for this cricket discussion. I've enjoyed it immensely and learned so much from our chat today. And I'm sure everyone watching and listening has as well. Peter, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they do that in your current role at the Saka and other various things that you have going on? Where can people get in touch if they want to get in contact?
The easiest way would be to go through the Saka. That's obviously where I'm working now. And but also, I'm on Instagram. I think I'm not an attempt of an influencer or anything by any stretch of the imagination, but I am there now. I think I'm possible to find me. So more than happy for anyone to reach out, especially if any questions about umpiring or anything. More than happy to chat.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. We'll leave links in the description of this episode for people to check that out. Before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. So the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Peter, for joining me today for today's cricket discussion. I hope all of you watching or listening to this cricket discussion with Peter learned a lot more about Peter and his cricketing journey. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.